Victor Dane's thumb is pressed across the bottom edge of the glass award, but he can't cover the engraving, Mercy Root Recovery, my project. He raises it beneath the ballroom lights while a photograph of our loading dock fills the screen behind him. Yellow load cards hang from 3 linen carts in the picture. My handwriting is visible on the nearest one. When a crisis hits, leadership means building the right team, Victor says into the microphone. Even my sister-in-law pitched in. Mara was the assistant who helped keep the paperwork straight. A few people at his table laugh warmly. My sister, Denise, looks at me. I stay seated. The host, Lena Cho, touches one finger to her earpiece, then looks down at the teleprompter. "I'm sorry," she says. "Would someone bring me the nomination record?" Victor's smile tightens. An event coordinator hurries over with a cream archive envelope. Lena removes a folded page fastened by a brass linen pin. She unfolds the original signed page at the microphone. Victor reaches for it. Too late. Lena reads, "I am pleased to nominate Mara Bell, architect of the Mercy Root Recovery System." Denise's chair scrapes the floor. She doesn't look at her husband. She looks at me and mouths one word, "Why?" 3 months earlier, I was standing beside Tunnel Washer 2, with sweat running between my shoulder blades, trying to convince Victor that hospital sheets still had to obey the laws of physics. "You can't negotiate with wet linen," I told him. Victor glanced at the 17-foot machine as if it had interrupted him on purpose. It was 6 in the morning, already 83 degrees outside, and the washroom felt like the inside of a steamed dumpling. "I'm not negotiating with linen," he said. "I'm asking for options. Your option is 48 minutes per batch. 48 minutes is the current process. It's also how long it takes. That answer is why operations people don't get invited to sales meetings." He said it with a smile because Victor believed a smile turned an insult into coaching. Behind him, a press cake dropped onto the shuttle belt with a heavy slap. 200 pounds of compressed sheets traveled toward the dryers. Celia Ruiz, the lead washroom operator, watched it go and raised her eyebrows at me. I raised mine back. That was our entire meeting. Victor had been my brother-in-law for 11 years and my manager for 14 months. He was very good at 3 things: remembering names, making promises, and leaving a room before anyone could calculate what his promises cost. He had recruited me to Brightwell Textile Services after I stepped away from a regional engineering job that required 4 flights a week. Our father had needed help after a stroke, and Denise was running her bookkeeping firm from a spare bedroom while trying to keep Victor's travel schedule, their mortgage, and Dad's appointments from eating her alive. Victor had called me one night and said, "Come fix our plant. You'll be close to your dad, Denise can breathe, and I'll finally have someone around here who understands that a process is more than a laminated poster." At the time, it had sounded generous. Often, it was generous. That was the inconvenient thing about Victor. He had brought groceries to Dad without being asked. He remembered the brand of ginger ale I liked. When one of his route drivers lost his wife, Victor covered the man's deliveries himself for a week, came home smelling like diesel and damp cotton, and never told anyone at corporate. He also treated every room like it contained 1 chair too few. At 6:12 that morning, Lionel Price came through the washroom door carrying a pipe wrench and wearing the expression of a man who had just been personally betrayed by metal. "Steam pressure's dancing," he said. "How badly?" I asked. "Badly enough that I'm using the word dancing before coffee." Victor checked his watch. "Can we isolate the problem?" Lionel looked at him. "Sure. The problem is our steam line." "Which section?" "The old section. That narrows it down to this building. It narrows it down to the part of the building you didn't approve replacing in March." Victor's jaw shifted once. He and Lionel had a relationship built on mutual usefulness and recreational contempt. I took the brass linen pin off my keyring and used it to fasten a yellow exception card to the nearest cart. The pins were old-fashioned, 4 inches long and shaped like oversized safety pins, Brightwell had used them before plastic tags and barcode scanners. I kept one because scanners went down, labels peeled off, and wet paper became pulp. Victor tapped the card. You know we have software. You know steam makes labels fall off. You enjoy this, don't you? More than sales meetings. Celia covered a laugh with a cough. Then the overhead alarm sounded. The washroom changed instantly. Jokes disappeared. Lionel headed for the utility corridor. Celia hit the hold switch. The tunnel washer stopped feeding, but everything already inside it remained trapped in a segmented steel cylinder filled with water, detergent, and several thousand pounds of hospital linen. A radio crackled at my hip. Mara, dispatch. Mercy Central just increased their emergency order. They want 6 more isolation carts by 2. Victor heard it. Tell them yes, he said. I picked up the radio. Tasha, hold that answer for 10 minutes. We don't have 10 minutes, Victor said. We don't have steam. We have the small washers. For 6 isolation carts on top of the regular surgical load, move hotel volume to second shift. The hotel volume is already on second shift. Then move it again. I looked at him. He spread his hands. Options, Mara. A hard metallic bang came from behind the wall. The pressure gauge dropped so fast the needle trembled at the bottom. Lionel's voice came through the radio. Kill the main, now. Celia pulled the emergency stop. For the first time since I'd worked at Brightwell, the washroom went quiet. Silence in an industrial laundry is not peaceful. It is expensive. Water dripped somewhere inside Tunnel 2. The carts waiting at the soil dock seemed to multiply while we looked at them. Each one held tied bags of used hospital textiles, sheets, gowns, towels, draw sheets, reusable isolation products. Every bag had a source. Every source had a required formula. The clean side of the plant was physically separated from the soil side for a reason. You couldn't improvise your way across that line and call it efficiency. Victor stared at the dead machines. How long? He asked. Lionel answered over the radio. Best case, 10 hours. Worst case? We'll all develop new hobbies. Victor walked toward the utility corridor. I need a real number. That was the real number. Victor disappeared through the door. Celia came closer to me. She was 60, compact, silver-haired, and capable of detecting a bad wash formula from the other end of the plant. He's going to tell us to combine the Mercy isolation load with St. Anne's surgical, she said. He won't. He did last winter. He suggested it. He suggested it 5 times with increasing volume. I pulled a second yellow card from the supply drawer. Celia watched me write the time, machine status, trapped load contents, and last verified steam pressure. You expecting trouble? She asked. I'm expecting everyone to forget what happened in whatever way helps them most. That sounds like trouble with office furniture. By 7, we were in the glass conference room above the wash floor. Victor stood at the whiteboard with his sleeves rolled to his elbows. He looked energized. Crisis suited him. In a normal meeting, people had time to question him. In a crisis, his certainty felt like shelter. Tasha Green sat beside me with 3 route manifests open on her tablet. Lionel smelled faintly of pipe sealant. Celia had refused a chair and stood near the door, arms folded. Victor drew 3 boxes on the board. We split the volume, he said. Send hotel work to East Ridge, keep surgical here, and process standard hospital linen through the conventional washers. We protect the priority accounts. East Ridge is 90 miles away, Tasha said. Their dock closes to outside soil loads at 4. Then call their manager. I did. Their second shift is short. Offer overtime. I don't control their overtime. I do. Tasha looked at me. He enjoys this, doesn't he? More than route meetings, I said. Victor capped the marker harder than necessary. Can the 2 of you save the comedy routine until after we save the contracts? He drew a line from standard hospital linen to the conventional washers. I said, we need separate lanes by facility and soil classification. Obviously. We have 4 conventional machines. 1 is down for bearings. Lionel, parts come tomorrow. Borrow parts. Lionel tilted his head. From what? The decorative washer in the lobby? Victor ignored him. Run compatible classifications together. Celia spoke from the door. Define compatible. White hospital goods. Same general formula. Isolation linen is white. Then hold isolation until the first clean sequence. Mercy asked for isolation first. Victor uncapped the marker again. Then include Mercy isolation with their standard white goods and run the stronger formula. Celia's face went still. I said, no. Victor kept his eyes on the board. I wasn't asking for a vote. The isolation products have to remain traceable. If you blend them into a standard load, we lose piece-level accountability when they're split on the clean side. We have RFID. The portal lagged all night. Tasha has carts showing at Mercy that are physically on our dock. Tasha turned her tablet so he could see. Cart 814 has been in Bay 3 since 4:20. The system says it was delivered at 5:03. Why? Because a route tablet synced yesterday's scan after the driver rebooted it. Victor looked at me, then fixed the software. I'll mention that to the steam line. He put the marker down. The humor left the room in small increments. Mara, he said, Mercy Central is our largest account. Their purchasing director is already irritated about last month's shortages. I promised their chief operating officer we would cover today's demand. You promised before asking the plant. I know this plant. You know its phone number. Tasha lowered her eyes. Lionel became deeply interested in his wrench. Victor walked to the end of the table. His voice softened, which was always more dangerous than when it rose. I brought you into this company because you solve problems other people can't solve. I'm solving it. You've said no to every proposal. I've said no to one proposal 3 different ways. And if Mercy runs short, then they run short with accurate information, and we recover safely. That's not an answer I can give them. It's the answer we have right now. Victor leaned his palms on the table. You're thinking like an engineer. Think like someone responsible for the relationship. I felt the old pressure behind my ribs, the one he knew how to find. It was the same pressure I'd felt when Denise said she couldn't take Dad to one more therapy appointment, and I had opened my calendar and canceled a trip without telling anyone what it would cost me. Victor never asked for surrender directly. He described the person you could become if you gave it to him. Celia moved toward the table. Mr. Dane, she said, if you want those loads mixed, put it in writing with your name on it. Victor looked at her. She held his gaze. Then he smiled. That won't be necessary. It was a small thing, 4 words. But Tasha sat back, and Lionel's wrench stopped turning in his hand. I pulled the yellow card closer and wrote 7:18 a.m. Beside it, I wrote, Proposed mixed emergency load declined pending traceability plan. Victor read it upside down. You planning to frame that? I'm planning to know what we decided. His eyes stayed on the card for a second too long. That was the moment he noticed I might resist him. By 8, I had a workable map. East Ridge could take hotel sheets if we paid for an extra soil dock crew. Our conventional washers could handle Mercy's isolation products in dedicated cycles, but only if we postponed rehabilitation towels and rerouted standard sheets. St. Anne's had enough clean inventory to give us 12 hours. The rural facilities claimed they were desperate, though Tasha quietly told me 2 of them always overstated need because our route times wandered. They order fear, she said. Then we haul it around in carts. I called each facility's linen contact, asked for physical counts, and wrote the answers on yellow cards. Some numbers dropped by half once a human being walked into a supply room and looked. At 9:07, a night supervisor from Mercy named April Voss answered on the 4th ring. You're Brightwell? She asked. I'm Mara Bell. I'm standing in the plant. Good. The people who call from offices keep telling me everything is on schedule. I looked through the conference room glass at our motionless tunnel washers. Everything is not on schedule. April laughed once. It sounded tired rather than amused. Finally, she said, a person. She gave me their real PAR levels by floor, their current isolation usage, and the one loading dock window we absolutely could not miss. I rearranged the sequence while she talked. Victor came back into the room halfway through the call. He listened as I confirmed 4 carts by 2, 2 more by 5, then replacement sheets overnight. When I hung up, he said, "I told them 6 by 2. They don't need 6 by 2. That's what they ordered. It's not what they have room to receive. April's holding a dock slot for us at 1:45. Who is April? The night operations supervisor. I've never heard of her. She's heard of the loading dock. Tasha smiled at her tablet. Victor studied the growing line of yellow cards across the table. Each one held a facility, a cart count, a formula, a route, and a name. It looked primitive beside the wall monitor and its glossy dashboard. It was also the first accurate picture we had. He picked up the Mercy card. "This can work," he said. "It can." He nodded as if I had finally understood him. "Good. Let's call it the Mercy Recovery Plan." I reached out and took the card back before he could carry it away. "Mercy Route Recovery," I said. "It covers every stop, not just the account you promised." Victor's smile returned. "Fine," he said, "build it." Then he walked out to tell corporate he had a plan. I had 12 minutes to turn the plan into something people could use before the first transfer truck had to leave for East Ridge. Celia took over the conventional wash sequence. Lionel assigned one mechanic to the failed steam line and another to the washer waiting on bearings, then went downstairs to find out which supplier had lied to him most recently. Tasha stood at the whiteboard and moved magnetic route markers while I made a yellow card for every cart. At the top of each card, I wrote the facility and product class. Under that went the wash formula, machine, finish lane, required departure time, and receiving contact. Celia added a red slash to anything that needed isolation handling. Tasha added a green dot when she had a truck and driver. "Very festive," she said. "Wait until we add glitter." Glitter gets into everything. We'd be shipping it through November. Celia pinned the first card to a cart of Mercy isolation gowns. "You two finished? Professionally?" Tasha asked. "Probably." Victor returned with his phone against his chest. "Eastridge says they can't take the hotel volume." "They can," I said. "They don't want to open a second soil lane. They also don't have people. They have people available. Their manager doesn't have overtime authorization. I gave him authorization. He wants it in writing from finance." Victor blinked once, then lifted his phone. "Give me 5 minutes." He was back in 4 with an email from the regional controller and approval for an outside dock crew if Eastridge's own staff turned down the shift. "That's how options work," he said, showing me the screen. I wanted to dislike the satisfaction on his face. Instead, I said, "Good," because it was good. Victor could move decisions through corporate faster than anyone I had worked with. He knew which controller answered texts, which director hated being copied, and which vice president would approve an expense just to avoid a longer email thread. In a plant full of people who could keep old equipment alive with wire, patience, and profanity, that was its own kind of technical skill. He forwarded the authorization to Tasha, then stepped close enough that the others couldn't hear him. "We're going to get through this," he said. "You and me." He meant it in that moment. By 10:30, every available conventional washer was running. The floor sounded wrong without the tunnel line. The machines filled and drained in separate surges instead of the steady industrial rhythm we were used to. But clean carts began moving. The first real problem arrived wrapped in blue plastic. A soil cart from Mercy had been tagged standard white linen. When Celia cut the bag open at the sorting table, she found reusable isolation gowns mixed underneath the sheets. She shut down the belt. Victor, who had chosen that exact moment to escort 2 corporate managers through the plant, stopped behind her. "Why are we paused?" he asked. Celia held up one gown by the shoulder seam. "Because this isn't standard linen." "Can we separate it?" "We can now." One of the corporate managers looked at the blue bag. How would it have been handled under the combined load proposal? Celia's eyes found mine. Victor answered first. "That was an early scenario we rejected." The manager nodded and kept walking. Celia waited until they were out of earshot. We? I clipped a new exception card to the cart. She took the brass pin from me and pushed it through the thick paper herself. Write his name bigger. At 11:16, the barcode portal stopped updating. Tasha discovered it when the East Ridge truck vanished from the dispatch screen while she was standing beside it. It says Ramon logged out in Pennsylvania, she said. Ramon leaned from the cab window. I have never been to Pennsylvania. Apparently, you're having a lovely time. The missing truck would have created chaos on a normal day. A dispatcher would have started calling drivers. Clean side staff would have held carts waiting for digital confirmation. And facilities would have seen phantom inventory move through the portal. Instead, Tasha walked down the yellow cards. Green dot, departure time, driver initials. The physical sequence remained intact. Victor came out of his office carrying his laptop. IT says the system is processing a backlog. IT always says backlog when it means they have no idea, Tasha said. How are we tracking? I pointed to the cards. His eyes moved over the line of carts. Okay, he said. Keep doing that. It was the first time I had heard Victor endorse a paper system without making a joke about the 19th century. At 1:38, 4 Mercy carts rolled onto their dock. April Voss sent me a photograph of the receiving log with a thumbs up drawn beside the time. Beneath it, she wrote, "You beat cardiology's lunch order." I showed Tasha. "Put that on the corporate dashboard," she said. The second transfer truck reached East Ridge before their dock window closed. Victor had called their district manager personally and promised him first choice of 2 Brightwell hotel accounts the next time territories were adjusted. It was a political trade, but it got our soil carts through the door. Lionel restored partial steam at 6:22 that evening. He came into the conference room with a black smear across his forehead and set a cracked valve seat on top of Victor's printed recovery summary. "This is what a postponed capital request looks like," he said. Victor glanced at the greasy metal. "Can we have this discussion after we're stable? We had it in March while we were stable, and the replacement is coming. From Ohio. When? Tomorrow afternoon if the truck doesn't decide to visit Pennsylvania." Tasha, asleep with her cheek against her folded arms, lifted one thumb. Victor rubbed his face. He looked older than he had that morning. His tie was gone and there was a coffee stain shaped like Florida on his shirt. "Lionel," he said, "send me the March request again. I'll sign it tonight." Lionel stared at him, suspicious of victory. "Full replacement?" "Full replacement." "I also asked for the trap assembly." "Send both." Lionel picked up the cracked valve seat. "I'm taking this with me in case you wake up restored to factory settings." Victor laughed. So did I. For several hours, we functioned like the team Victor kept saying we were. He ordered food without asking anyone what they wanted and somehow remembered that Celia hated mayonnaise. He took customer calls so Tasha could sleep. When the regional vice president suggested diverting one of our hospital trucks to protect a luxury hotel account, Victor said, if they want dry sheets by midnight, they can buy them at a department store. He gave me room to make decisions. I gave him clean numbers he could carry upward. Together, we kept the next set of promises close enough to reality that the floor could reach them. That was why what came later hurt as much as it did. At 2 a.m, the portal was still down, and the cards had begun to soften in the humidity. I reinforced them with clear tape from the dispatch desk. Celia brought me a mug of coffee so strong it made my molars feel alert. "You go home yet?" she asked. "Did you?" "I'm asking questions, not volunteering answers." We stood on the clean side watching sheets move through Ironer 1. The feeder caught each damp sheet at 2 corners, pulled it wide, and sent it over the heated roll. On the other end, the folder snapped it into thirds. Celia nodded toward the conference room. Victor was asleep in a chair with his chin against his chest. "He's useful," she said. "He is. Still don't trust him." "You don't trust the vending machine." "It stole $1 from me in 2019 and has shown no remorse." A folded sheet dropped crooked onto the takeaway belt. She corrected it with 2 quick movements. "Useful isn't the same as safe," she said. By the next afternoon, we had processed the last emergency load. Mercy got every critical cart within the revised windows. St. Anne's got its sheets before its reserve fell below one full change. The rural facilities accepted reduced deliveries after Tasha made them confirm their shelves over video. Eastridge returned our hotel volume with 2 carts mislabeled and 1 fitted sheet printed with a logo from a resort we had never serviced. Celia held it up. "Souvenir," she said. The tunnel line returned to full operation 31 hours after the failure. Victor gathered everyone near the clean dock. The plant manager was away at a conference, so Victor stood on an overturned cart base and thanked the shifts himself. He named Lionel first. Maintenance did the impossible. Lionel muttered, "Ohio did the possible." Victor thanked Celia and the washroom crews. He thanked Tasha and dispatch. Then he looked at me. And Mara kept us organized. The phrase landed lightly, almost harmlessly. People were exhausted. Someone had brought donuts. A route driver opened a box and discovered that only powdered ones remained, which caused more immediate distress than my job description. Victor stepped down and handed me a donut wrapped in a napkin. "You saved us," he said quietly. "Organized you." "You know what I mean." I did. That was the problem. 2 days later, corporate communications requested material for a crisis response case study. Victor forwarded me the email with one line above it. "Send timeline and visuals by noon." I assembled the route map, outage chronology, before and after cart counts, and a photograph Tasha had taken of the yellow card line. I included the names and roles of everyone who had made a critical decision. Celia had caught the mixed isolation bag. Lionel had designed the bypass. Tasha had rebuilt dispatch around physical verification. April had given us real demand from Mercy. At the bottom, I wrote, "Mercy Route Recovery designed and led by Mara Bell, Process Improvement Supervisor." Victor returned the draft at 11:43. He had changed the title to District Leadership in Action. Brightwell protects critical hospital supply during infrastructure failure. My name appeared once, halfway down, in a sentence about administrative support. I walked into his office with the laptop open. "What is this?" He looked up from a container of noodles. "A case study." "Why did you change the attribution?" "I made it readable." "You made me support staff." "You are support staff." "I designed the recovery." "And I authorized it." After trying to combine traceability classes, his fork stopped halfway to his mouth. "You want that in the company newsletter? I want the people who did the work named for the work they did. They are. Lionel is maintenance personnel. Tasha is dispatch staff. Celia vanished. Victor set down the fork. Mara, corporate communications doesn't want an oral history. They want leadership lessons. Then they should know where the leadership came from." He leaned back and studied me with the tired patience he usually reserved for customers threatening to leave over a missing pillowcase. "I own the district result," he said. "That means I own the district failure, too." "Do you?" His face changed. I put the laptop on his desk and pointed to the sentence that described him directing a seamless manual tracking conversion. "You told me 3 months ago to stop ordering yellow cards. And I changed my mind. When the system failed. Yes, that's management. No, that's witnessing." He pushed the container aside. "What do you want?" "Restore the project name. Restore the team's names. Credit me as the designer." The phrase "designed by" makes it sound like I wasn't involved. You were involved. Exactly. Your involvement doesn't require my disappearance. He looked through the glass wall toward the plant. The new valve assembly had arrived that morning, and Lionel's crew was lowering tools into the utility trench. "I'm being considered for the regional vice president role," Victor said. It was the first I had heard of it. He watched me absorb the information. If I get it, I can fix things around here before they become emergencies. Capital approvals, staffing, better route technology. You think I enjoy asking Lionel which machine is least likely to kill us? What does that have to do with my name? The story needs one accountable leader. It had one. Me. His chair creaked as he sat forward. "You ran the floor plan. I held the clients, East Ridge, finance, and corporate. I got you the resources. That makes you part of the story. It makes me responsible for the story." There it was, his favorite chair, brought into another room. I closed the laptop. "I'm sending communications my original draft." I wouldn't. Why? Because they asked through me. They asked for the timeline. And I decide what leaves this district. I lifted the laptop. Victor's voice softened. "Don't turn a good week into something ugly." At Dad's apartment that Sunday, Victor carved a roast he had cooked himself while Denise mashed potatoes at the counter. He wore the apron I had given him for Christmas, the one that said, "Ask me about my spreadsheet." He'd laughed so hard when he opened it that he put it on over his dress shirt. Dad sat at the table rolling a physical therapy ball beneath his left palm. His speech had returned almost completely, though fatigue still pulled certain words away from him. "Your mother," he said, watching Victor slice the meat, "would have told you that knife is too dull." Victor sawed at the roast. "Your mother told me my car was too shiny. She suspected vanity. She understood me." Denise set the bowl down. "How bad was the plant thing, really?" Victor answered before I could. "Bad enough. We handled it." Mara looked dead when I talked to her. Mara always looks disappointed in the available systems. Dad smiled. Denise touched my shoulder as she passed. "Victor said you built some paper chart that saved everyone. A routing system." "That's what I said." Victor placed the platter on the table. "She was terrific." He said it easily, affectionately. His hand brushed Denise's waist as he moved past her. I looked at my sister. She looked lighter than she had in months. Dad was stronger. Victor might get promoted. The family had begun to loosen around the fear that had held us together. Then Victor looked at me across the table. Just for a second. His smile remained, but the message underneath it was clear. "See how much this costs." Denise spooned potatoes onto my plate. "You two must make a scary team." Victor raised his glass. "The best," he said. I left before dessert. The corrected case study went live Monday morning. Victor's name appeared in the headline. Mine was gone. I stared at the case study until the words blurred, then printed it. The printer spat out 4 glossy pages full of Victor's favorite corporate verbs. He had mobilized, aligned, safeguarded, and led. The yellow cards appeared in 2 photographs without being named. Celia's discovery of the mixed isolation bag had become an early risk identified by district leadership. Lionel's steam bypass was a rapid infrastructure response. Tasha's route sequence belonged to the management team. I placed my original draft beneath the published version and carried both to Victor's office. His door was closed. Through the glass, I watched him read the message I sent, asking for 15 minutes. He turned his phone face down. At 10, I sent the 2 drafts to corporate communications with a short correction request. I copied Victor and the plant manager, who was finally back from his conference. Victor called me before I could lower my hand from the mouse. My office. He had the correction request open on his monitor when I arrived. "Close the door." I closed it. "You went around me." "I included you." "That isn't the same thing." The published case study is inaccurate. It's a summary. It calls me administrative support. I didn't write that phrase. You approved it. He leaned back. His jacket hung over the guest chair, and his sleeves were rolled neatly, as though he had scheduled the confrontation between better meetings. "Corporate is creating a continuous improvement manager position," he said. 8% raise, better bonus band. I waited. "I recommended you." "With what authority?" "You'd oversee process initiatives across the district." "Staff?" "Project-based support." "Budget?" "As needed. Reporting to you." Of course. It was the same job with a longer name and a nicer way to be blamed. Victor folded his hands. "This is what recognition looks like in a company, Mara. More responsibility, more access. You don't get there by arguing over captions." "I asked you 3 direct questions, and I'll work out the details after the position is approved. Put the authority in writing. His mouth tightened. I set the printed case study on his desk. Correct this first. You're making the raise conditional? You're making it conditional. I'm trying to solve the problem. The problem is that you took my work. He looked toward the glass wall. 2 route drivers were passing outside, and his office suddenly felt like a stage. He lowered his voice. Withdraw the correction request. Take the role. Let me get through the vice president process, and I'll make sure you have room to grow. And the team? They'll be thanked at the gala. That isn't credit. It is to people who don't need everything engraved. I thought of the roast sliding beneath his dull knife, Denise's hand at his back, Dad laughing. I'm leaving the request open, I said. Victor's eyes cooled before the rest of his face did. Then the role may not be a fit. It never existed in writing. I walked out with the published copy. He kept my original draft. Corporate communications answered that afternoon. They changed administrative support to process support and added a line naming the Brightwell operations team. Victor remained in the headline. It was a tiny correction. It also told him I could force one. The next morning, my calendar changed. The district operations call vanished first, then the capital planning review. The Mercy follow-up meeting disappeared at 8:14, 20 minutes before it was supposed to start. I messaged April Voss. Did Mercy cancel? She replied, We're in the conference room. Victor says you're tied up. I was standing at my desk eating almonds from the vending machine. What conference link are you using? Before April could answer, Victor called. I've got Mercy covered. They asked for me. They asked for a Brightwell review. April just told me you said I was tied up. You are? With what? Your action plan. A document landed in my inbox while he spoke. Performance improvement plan. The first paragraph described a pattern of resistance to leadership direction. The second cited poor collaboration, excessive focus on documentation, and bypassing communication protocols. The final section required me to submit all external correspondence through Victor for 30 days. I read it twice. You wrote me up for keeping records during an outage. I wrote you up for how you're behaving now, right after I requested attribution. See? That sentence. Everything becomes evidence in a trial only you know we're having. My hand was shaking, so I placed it flat on the desk. What performance outcome have I missed? This is behavioral. What operational target? You're proving my point. He hung up. Celia found me at the dispatch counter 10 minutes later, staring at a cup of coffee I had forgotten to drink. You sick? She asked. Apparently, I'm difficult. That diagnosis took them long enough. I showed her the plan. She read the phrase, excessive focus on documentation, and barked out a laugh. They put that in writing? Yes. Frame it. I don't think I'm allowed to enjoy irony while under review. Put that on the plan, too. Her joke kept me upright until lunch. Then Victor sent an order to dispose of all manual load cards after scanning. He framed it as record standardization and copied information security. Yellow cards held customer names, road information, and processing exceptions, so the policy itself was reasonable. The timing was Victor. I called the records coordinator. The incident binder has originals attached to approved change controls, I said. Do those stay? If they're source records, yes. Scan and retain, according to the incident schedule. I scanned every card in the binder and initialed the index. The loose duplicates went into the locked disposal bin exactly as directed. The Mercy isolation card remained fastened inside with my brass pin. 3 days later, Victor tried to blame Celia for a 4-hour delay discovered during the outage review. His new summary said an operator had incorrectly paused the soil belt after encountering compatible product in a standard load. Celia read it in the conference room. Compatible product, she said. That's cute. The plant manager, Owen Beck, looked uncomfortable. He had spent most of the week catching up from his conference and seemed to resent the crisis for occurring without his supervision. Victor tapped the summary. The point is that the interruption added labor and contributed to the missed hotel window. The bag had isolation gowns, I said. Victor looked at me. We've already discussed your participation in meetings. Owen asked for the operational timeline. Owen cleared his throat. Do we have the original classification? I opened the incident binder. The yellow card showed the cart number, bag source, discovery time, and Celia's initials. Attached behind it was the corrected RFID report confirming the isolation inventory. Owen read both. This pause was required, he said. Celia looked directly at Victor. Should I put that in writing? Victor removed the paragraph from his summary. Afterward, Celia caught up with me at the stairs. 1, she said. 1 what? One time, the paper bites back. She held up one finger, then went down to the washroom. Lionel's turn came the next week. Victor circulated a maintenance closeout stating that the steam failure had been unpredictable. Lionel returned it with his March replacement request attached, along with 2 follow-up warnings and photographs of corrosion around the valve seat. Victor called him into his office. Their conversation stayed behind closed glass for 40 minutes. Lionel came out carrying the unsigned closeout. He asked me to consider the larger context, he said. What did you say? I told him the larger context was also corroded. He placed a copy of the March request in the incident binder. 2, I said. Lionel frowned. Celia's counting. That woman needs a hobby. I started applying for jobs after work. The first interview was with a medical supply distributor, whose operations director spent 20 minutes explaining lean manufacturing to me using a restaurant metaphor. The second company wanted someone to travel 70% of the time. The third offered less money and described every department as a family. I closed that browser tab so fast my laptop fan changed pitch. Denise called twice. I let both calls go to voicemail because I knew Victor would be sitting somewhere nearby giving her privacy loudly. On her third call, I answered. Are you trying to get him fired? She asked. No hello, no small talk. I asked him to correct a case study. He says you filed a formal complaint. I requested attribution. He's up for a huge promotion, Mara. So he gets to use my name until it becomes inconvenient? That's not what he's doing. He took me out of the Mercy meeting and put me on a performance plan. Silence. Then she said, Why didn't you tell me about the performance plan? Because you're asking if I'm trying to get him fired. That's not fair. I know. The answer stopped both of us. I could hear her bookkeeping calculator clicking in the background. Denise clicked buttons while she thought, even when the calculator was off. He says you've been undermining him in front of staff, she said. He tried to blame Celia for refusing an unsafe load. Unsafe. Untraceable. Is that the same thing? It can become the same thing very quickly. She exhaled. I don't understand half of this. You understand someone taking your work. That is a low blow. It wasn't meant to be. That makes it worse. She hung up. I sat at my kitchen table with the silent phone in front of me. The brass pin was no longer on my key ring. Every time my hand went looking for it, my fingers found an empty split ring. A cream envelope arrived at Brightwell the following Monday, addressed to Corporate Recognition Committee, care of Lena Cho. Reception logged it before sending it upstairs. I noticed because Tasha had been asked to verify the delivery source. Mercy Health Network, she said, turning the courier slip toward me. What are they nominating? I looked at the sender's name. Evelyn Park, Network Operations Director. I don't know. Tasha's smile was slow. Liar. Later that afternoon, April sent me a photograph. It showed the original Mercy isolation card on Evelyn Park's desk, flattened beneath a signed letter. My brass pin fastened the pages together. Evelyn asked us what made the recovery work, April wrote. I told her to ask the people who were awake. Victor submitted his own award packet 2 days later. Lionel was asked to sign a statement praising Victor's infrastructure leadership. Tasha received one about district route coordination. Celia got nothing, which offended her more than being misquoted. They all declined. Victor replaced their statements with his executive summary and nominated himself for Brightwell's Continuity Award. I learned that from Owen, who called me into his office and kept rearranging paper clips while he spoke. Victor says the award recognizes executive accountability. Of course he does. He also says you're escalating conflict because of a family issue. Did he explain which issue? Owen moved another paperclip. I don't want to be between you two. You're the plant manager. You're already between operations and district management. He winced. I softened my voice. Did you sign the nomination? No. That surprised me. Why not? Because I was in Arizona during the outage. Thank you. He looked almost irritated by my gratitude. I still expect you to complete the performance plan. I will. The gala invitation arrived in my email the next morning. Victor was receiving the Continuity Award. All 4 members of the recovery team were invited as guests. The attached event program described Mercy Route Recovery as an executive-led response created under the direction of District Manager Victor Dane. I declined. Tasha appeared at my desk 7 minutes later. Change it. I'm not spending a Friday night watching him hold my work in formal wear. You're on the company table. I can suffer for free at home. If you don't go, he gets to describe your absence. I looked at her. She crossed her arms. You know exactly what he'll say. Mara's overwhelmed. Mara's disappointed. Mara couldn't put the team first. I don't own a dress that says collaborative enough. Wear black. It says you're open to feedback. I changed my response to attending. Denise texted me that evening. Victor says you're coming. Please don't ruin this for him. I read it once, then set the phone face down. On the night of the gala, I wore black. At registration, Lena Cho handed me my table card and paused over my name. Mara Bell, she said. I've been looking forward to meeting you. Across the ballroom, Victor saw us speaking. His smile disappeared. Victor reached us before I could ask Lena what she meant. There she is, he said, putting one hand between my shoulder blades. My secret weapon. Lena's eyes dropped to his hand. I was just telling Mara I received an unusual nomination packet, she said. Victor's fingers pressed lightly against my dress. I'm sure she's curious. I'm standing here, I said. He removed his hand. Lena held a slim folder against her waist. She was Brightwell's Director of Communications, but she had the steady expression of someone accustomed to interviewing executives who believed microphones were shields. I had 2 different descriptions of the same project, she said. The recognition committee resolved it from the executive submission, but I like to verify names before I read them on stage. The executive submission is the official one, Victor said. Everything submitted is official. His smile returned a fraction too late. A coordinator called Lena toward the stage. Before leaving, she touched my table card. Enjoy dinner, Mara. Victor watched her walk away. What did you send her? Nothing. You expect me to believe that? I don't care what you believe tonight. His expression hardened, then shifted as Denise approached in a dark green dress. He kissed her cheek and became my brother-in-law again. Your sister's already fighting with me about work, he told her. Denise gave me a tired smile. Can we make it through the salad? I ordered the beef. I was speaking emotionally, Victor. At our table, Tasha had placed her evening bag on the chair beside her to keep Victor from sitting there. Lionel wore a suit that looked as though it had been issued during a court proceeding. Celia had pinned her silver hair up and brought a tiny bottle of hot sauce in her purse. You brought your own? I asked. I read the menu. Owen sat across from us, rearranging the forks. Victor and Denise were assigned to the executive table near the stage. Before he joined it, Victor leaned over my shoulder. When they announce the award, I'll acknowledge the group. Please stand when I do. Tasha answered for me. Will there be instructions on the screen? He looked at her. I don't want to miss our cue, she said. Victor walked away. Dinner passed in small, badly lit portions. Lena presented service awards and safety milestones. A sales director told a 7-minute story with 3 separate endings. Celia used her hot sauce on the beef and then passed it under the table to Lionel. When the Continuity Award slide appeared, my mouth went dry. The screen filled with the photograph of our loading dock. 3 yellow cards hung from the Mercy carts. I remembered writing them with my forearm stuck to the conference room table, wondering whether 6 hospitals would have enough clean linen by morning. Lena began reading from the teleprompter. This year's Continuity Award recognizes a response that protected critical customer operations during a major infrastructure failure. When Brightwell's central steam line went down, the Mercy Route Recovery Project coordinated processing, traceability, and delivery across 2 plants and multiple healthcare facilities. Tasha's shoe touched mine beneath the table. The award is presented to District Manager Victor Dane. Victor rose. He buttoned his jacket as he walked to the stage. Denise smiled because everyone at her table was smiling. When he reached Lena, she handed him the glass award. The engraved words caught the ballroom lights. Mercy Route Recovery. He held it with both hands. "Thank you," he said. A crisis tests whether a leader has built the right team before the pressure arrives. His voice settled into the polished rhythm he used with clients. He thanked the regional executives. He thanked East Ridge. He thanked the account team for maintaining customer confidence. Then he looked toward our table. Even my sister-in-law pitched in. Mara was the assistant who helped keep the paperwork straight. Heat moved up my neck. Tasha whispered, "Assistant." Lionel's chair creaked as he shifted forward. Celia put one hand flat on the table. Victor raised the award a little higher. I stayed seated. On stage, Lena glanced at the teleprompter. Then she touched her earpiece. "I'm sorry," she said. Victor turned toward her. "Would someone bring me the nomination record?" The room changed. Conversation stopped in uneven pockets. A fork struck a plate near the back. Victor moved closer to the microphone. "I think we have everything we need here. I need to verify the project attribution. I can clarify it for you." An event coordinator came from the side of the ballroom carrying the cream archive envelope. Lena accepted it and opened the flap. Inside was a folded page fastened with a brass linen pin. My hand closed around the empty ring on my keychain beneath the table. Lena drew out the page. Victor recognized the pin. I saw it happen. He reached toward the letter. That includes customer information. Lena stepped closer to the microphone, placing her shoulder between him and the page. Too late. She unfolded the original signed nomination. "I am pleased to nominate Mara Bell, architect of the Mercy Route Recovery System, for Brightwell's Continuity Award." Denise's chair scraped back. Lena kept reading. During the central steam failure, Ms. Bell rejected a proposed combined processing shortcut that would have compromised traceability of isolation textiles. She established a manual control system that remained functional through a 6-hour digital tracking outage and coordinated actual inventory requirements with our receiving staff. Victor stood beside her, holding the award bearing my project. The glass looked suddenly heavy. Lena read the next paragraph more slowly. The recovery succeeded because Ms. Bell documented and integrated the expertise of Celia Ruiz, who identified misclassified isolation products, Lionel Price, who designed the temporary steam bypass after prior replacement warnings, Tasha Green, who rebuilt the delivery sequence around physical verification, and April Voss, whose facility counts allowed the team to prioritize genuine need. At our table, Celia lifted her chin. Lionel looked down. Tasha's fingers tightened around mine. Lena reached the signature. Respectfully submitted, Evelyn Park, Network Operations Director, Mercy Health Network. Victor leaned toward the microphone. "This is a client perspective," he said. "It doesn't reflect the complete management structure." Lena folded the page along its existing crease. "It reflects the original nomination record." He lowered his voice, but the microphone caught it. "You approve my packet." "The committee received your packet after this one." Victor stared at her. Lena turned to the audience. "We'll correct the award record to reflect the nominated project team." She looked toward our table. Mara, Celia, Lionel, and Tasha, please join us. My legs felt unreliable. Tasha stood first. Black was the right choice, she murmured. Celia picked up her purse. I'm bringing the hot sauce. We walked toward the stage together. Victor remained beside the microphone for 1 second, then 2. Lena held out her hand for the award. He surrendered it. Denise met my eyes from the executive table. Why? She mouthed. I knew what she meant this time. Why hadn't I told her it was this bad? Why had I let her sit beside him? Why had I forced the truth to arrive through a microphone? I stopped beside her table. I did tell you, I said quietly. Her face folded inward. On stage, Lena placed the award at the center of the lectern. The 4 of us stood around it for the official photograph. Celia's purse remained looped over her wrist. Lionel blinked at the flash. Tasha refused to turn her body far enough to include Victor. I looked toward Denise after the photographer lowered his camera. Her chair was empty. Victor found me in the service hallway 20 minutes later. The ballroom doors swung behind him, releasing a burst of music before closing again. You set me up. I was standing beside a rack of clean glasses, waiting for Tasha to return from the restroom. I didn't know Lena had the letter. April sent you a photograph. Of the letter on Evelyn's desk, I didn't know it had been submitted. But you came. You invited me. You declined. And then I changed my mind. His tie was loose. A red line marked the bridge of his nose where his glasses had rested. I was going to recognize everyone, he said. You called me your assistant. I was managing the room. You were managing me. He looked past me, checking whether anyone could hear. That award wasn't about a process map, it was about district accountability. I was accountable. Then why did you need Lionel and Tasha to sign statements? To show alignment. They didn't agree with your version. They don't understand what executive leadership requires. I almost laughed, but his face stopped me. He believed some part of what he was saying. Victor had spent years translating other people's labor into promises executives could understand. Somewhere along the way, he had decided translation made him the author. You got East Ridge open, I said. You got overtime approved. You protected the hospital trucks when corporate wanted the hotel account. His eyes flickered. You were part of it, I said. You just couldn't stand being part. The ballroom doors opened again. Owen stepped into the hallway with Lena behind him. Victor straightened his tie. Lena held the cream envelope. HR would like copies of both nomination packets on Monday, she said. Victor's face settled into its public shape. Of course. The internal review lasted 5 weeks. It moved with the speed of people opening calendars, requesting attachments, and discovering that every attachment required another meeting. I completed my performance plan while it happened. For 30 days, I sent external correspondence through Victor. Each time he delayed one, I logged the delay in the plan's communication tracker. Excessive documentation became useful again. Owen provided the incident binder. Lionel provided his capital requests. Tasha provided the canceled Mercy meeting and route records. Celia provided the corrected review summary that had briefly blamed her. Corporate Communications produced my original case study draft from Victor's files. Victor argued that attribution had been simplified for external messaging. That explanation survived until reviewers compared his award packet with the original records and found the same simplifications always moved in one direction. His vice president application was withdrawn. Brightwell removed him from operational authority and offered him a district sales role while they reorganized. He accepted, stayed 6 weeks, and resigned after learning he would report to the person who got the promotion. He came to the plant once before leaving. I was at the morning board writing the day's exception list. You got what you wanted, he said. My performance plan removed? You know what I mean. I capped the marker. What do you think I wanted? My job. I applied to 3 other companies. That surprised him. He looked through the window at Tunnel 2. I brought you here. You did. I gave you room to solve that outage. You also tried to erase me from it. His mouth moved as if another argument had lined up behind his teeth. Then he glanced at the yellow card on my board. Those cards are going to survive us all. Only if someone indexes them correctly. He laughed once. It sounded tired. When he left, he took his sales awards from the lobby cabinet. He left the continuity award where corporate had returned it, now mounted above a plate listing all 4 of our names. Denise asked him to leave their house the week after the gala. She told me over coffee months later, after several short apologies had failed to become a conversation. He came home and said you'd manipulated a customer into writing that letter, she said. Then he said he'd never seen the letter before. Then he said he'd warned me you were unstable. Her calculator sat beside her coffee, though she had brought no work. I realized he kept changing the numbers until I gave him the answer he wanted. I stirred my coffee. I did that too, she said. With you? Yes. She flinched, but nodded. I'm sorry. I know. She waited for more. I had spent too long supplying the rest of everyone's sentences. Finally, she reached across the table and touched my wrist. I let her. Brightwell offered to make me continuous improvement manager under the same vague description Victor had used. I returned it with 3 changes: written authority over process controls, a budget, and direct access to the plant manager for safety and traceability decisions. I added restored pay for the months my raise had been frozen and formal project credit for Celia, Lionel, and Tasha. They accepted 2 items immediately and took another month to accept the rest. I stayed. On my first morning in the role, Lena sent the original Mercy letter downstairs for the incident archive. The brass pin had left a small rust-colored mark beside Evelyn Park's signature. I opened the binder to the Mercy isolation card. My handwriting had faded slightly beneath the clear tape. Celia's initials remained dark at the bottom. I pushed the brass pin through the card and Lena's letter, then closed the rings. At the morning board, I clipped up a fresh yellow card. Across the top, I wrote 4 names. Behind me, Tunnel Washer 2 began its first cycle, and the floor settled into its familiar rhythm.